The Zonai are by far the most interesting part of Tears of the Kingdom for the theorist side of the Zelda community. They offered some of the most compelling mysteries in Breath of the Wild and arguably the entire series. Not least of those mysteries being, where did the Zonai disappear to after the events of, who knows. So today, I wanted to give my thoughts on what's happened to the Zonai tribe since their disappearance, what might have happened to cause the disappearance, and how they're likely back in Tears of the Kingdom. This is a theory and speculation piece since the game isn't out yet, but I think this one leans more on the speculatory side of things, I'll be honest. Make sure to subscribe for a ton of videos before Tears of the Kingdom releases in just under a month. So let's talk a little bit about what we know about the Zonai and what we think we know after the latest trailer for the game. Here are the cliff notes on the Zonai themselves. They were a barbaric tribe that disappeared from Hyrule years ago, though we can't know the exact time frame that they disappeared in just yet. We also know that they mainly used to reside in the Faron region of Hyrule, but also more than likely used to space out and build structures elsewhere, some of their most notable structures outside of Faron being Typhlo Ruins, Thundra Plateau, and potentially the Lomite Labyrinths, though we can't really be entirely sure of that last connection down to the difference in symbols in those locations and the rest. They may have had a connection to the Sheikah, but their architecture might have also just been used by the Sheikah for their shrines. We know that they were strong magic wielders and were thought to have worshipped a water dragon, and their signature symbol seems to be this Zonai swirl symbol, though in the new game they seem far more connected to this dragon-based architecture that we also see in Faron. This might mean that they worship a water dragon even more than they did in the past, or it could just be a design choice. That sort of thing isn't really known through the trailers. Oh, and one final thing, which is more speculation but feels too likely to not touch on. I also think that this symbol right here is the crest of the Zonai tribe, as different unknown people from the newest trailer of the game wear jewelry that seems to kinda symbolise that same crest. They also seem to have made the cave that Link and Zelda were exploring in the E3 2019 trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, but there's always a chance that's changed sometime in development, much like the areas around the E3 2014 sneak peek of Breath of the Wild changed. It feels much more likely that these ruins from the new game are probably still going to be in the game in some kind of fashion though. While there are even more speculatory pieces on them making other areas in Breath of the Wild, those are most of the places they were definitely involved in the last game. So now let's look at some of the apparent Zonai connections in the last few trailers for the game, namely the gameplay reveal, the February trailer, and the latest trailer. Starting with the February trailer. There's a chance that these towers are something to do with the Zonai, though we haven't really had a good look at them yet. We think that the energy spirals are something to do with the tribe down to its more magical nature, but we can't really be sure on that front. Though the energy seems to be powering these parts of Link's vehicles, and with the parts having what's presumed to be a Zonai symbol on them, there is definitely some validity to that theory. Then we see a brand new enemy, a construct, drop something called a Zonai charge in the gameplay presentation for the game, basically confirming that these enemies have something to do with the Zonai, and in turn, confirming the Zonai. And finally, there are 1,000 Zonai connections in the final trailer, but if I might indulge, we've probably seen at least a member of the Zonai now, which means that at the very least, there is a reason to speculate on what's happened to the tribe in the time that's passed since they left. We also see these ships coming down to Link in the latest trailer too. We see a ton of architecture that's very similar present in the Sky Islands, with some of those pieces also being seen in what I presume is somewhere in Hyrule. Even more importantly, we see this dude's arm, and it looks identical to Link's new arm that seems to have infected him in some way. Along with this, there's a whole host of weapons with the same colour scheme as the constructs and the jewellery that the person is wearing. There may be even more, but I think it's time we get into some speculation on what might have happened to them in the first place. I'll go through a few different options explaining what could have happened to them before their disappearance first. The tribe might have left sometime in the past before the events of Skyward Sword had even taken place. In their time in the Faron region in this patch of time, they could have made most of the buildings that we see in Breath of the Wild, but we just didn't have access to them in Skyward Sword, given the linearity of each location in the game. This seems likely since there's a lot of evidence that points to the Forgotten Temple being the same as the Sealed Temple, and the stonework in that area has the same kind of withered look as the stone at the Zonai ruins. In their wake, they might have stolen a robot from the Lanayru mining facility, or maybe they even created those robots themselves. While they likely had some form of magical powers before that point, they wouldn't fully realise that power until they'd create a technology and magic combination with the technology in the Lanayru mining facility robots, hence the energy that we've seen powering pretty much everything in Tears of the Kingdom. They then disappeared because, well, why not? They were likely around when Demise was stomping around Hyrule. There's a good chance that they wanted to get away from the former kingdom, going to their own set of Sky Islands far away from Skyloft and the Hylians using their newfound technology. Another possibility is that the tribe had something to do with the sealing of Ganondorf the first time round after he'd been locked away and dropped into this chamber. Eventually, Link and Zelda would find him. This would make the most sense considering the arm that's locking down the Dark Lord, though we wouldn't have too much evidence to suggest this before Tears of the Kingdom's release, so it's less provable and more speculation based for the moment, though it definitely feels most likely even with more speculation. The real question here would be, why did the Zonai disappear after locking Ganondorf away though? Shouldn't they be revered by all the races who live in Hyrule? Well, the way I see it, I imagine that something happened between the Zonai tribe and the Hylian royal family that sent the tribe away in the first place after sealing away the Demon King. We might even actually see this happen in game 2. If my gut feeling is right, and it really never is really, but never mind, beside the point, then the shot in the throne room in the recent trailer for Tears of the Kingdom could be a cutscene that's very similar to a memory from Breath of the Wild. Time travel being in Tears of the Kingdom is a theory that's been thrown around a lot since 2021, and it was kinda lost for a little bit of time, but it's come back in full force with people really believing that Zelda is trapped somewhere in the past, and I don't disagree either. I kinda think so too, actually. There's a whole load of evidence that other creators will go over in videos that are solely based on that. There might even be a video out by the time that this is recorded. We don't have the time for that today. Just take my word that time travel is looking fairly likely for Tears of the Kingdom. If so, then we might actually see what caused the disappearance of the tribe all those years ago. But either way, I personally think that those are the two most likely scenarios based on what we know so far. There are also other theories out there, but we're working under these assumptions right here. So let's move on to why they might have returned, probably the most intriguing part of the tribe if they really are returning in Tears of the Kingdom. There are a couple of possibilities and probably even more that I'm neglecting to mention. Here's one. The resurrection of Ganondorf has called them back to the land of Hyrule. How? Well, if this hand really does belong to the figure we see in the latest trailer, then why wouldn't they be alerted to their own hand being tampered with? Whether the hand is crafted by the Zonai or has a direct connection with the person talking to Zelda, you'd think that there would be some kind of signal to give the Zonai tribe a heads up. This would also tell us that the tribe disappeared sometime between Breath of the Wild and the end of each timeline branch, which would give us even more insight into them. If the Zelda team really want us to dig deep into the Zonai, I imagine that they will give us as much information as possible. Up until recently, I assumed they'd be in the game, but really only would be implied. But at the rate we're going, they're going to be a really big part of not just the game, but the story too. If so, then we'll see exactly where they've been all this time. There's even the chance that we see the moment that Ganondorf was sealed by the tribe at that point. This is kinda hinted at in the game's brand new eShop description too. It suggests that we'll be unraveling the truth behind a cataclysmic event. While we could be unraveling the truth behind Ganondorf's resurrection itself, I find that hard to believe since we probably know exactly how Ganondorf himself is resurrected, but finding out how he was sealed 10,000 years ago, or likely longer now, sounds way more plausible, especially since we know that this arm has something to do with the Zonai or whoever locked the Demon King away. I think this is probably the most possible outcome. I think that the arm has the power to show the infectee their memories, so to speak, and we'll get to relive those memories, but in the same respect, the arm will likely alert the original owner and the Zonai will realise that it's time for them to come back to Hyrule after an era of staying away from the lands for whatever reason, possibly down to a relations break with the royal family, and that's something that Zelda will have to fix in her sections of the story. Then comes the question of how the Zonai might call the islands down to Hyrule once again. And my best answer for this is that the tribe could have technology and magic that we can't even fathom in the current Zelda timeline. We've already seen that they have insane technology, and there's a lot of unexplainable islands in the map. I'm sure that there is definitely a strange answer using the power that the Zonai do have. They might even be time travelers and could bring the islands back from time. Then that calls into question whether Zelda herself could just be sent back in time, so maybe that's less possible, but either way, I think that this is how and why the Zonai have returned. It's possible that they are also quite versed in air traversal in of itself, and we see that through barbarian-like ships. If their barbarian nature is still present all these years on, then I could imagine that their ships would also look barbaric in nature, much like these ships in the latest trailer. Another possibility though that I think is less likely after the latest trailer is that Ganondorf called these islands back down to Hyrule from however far away they come from. Honestly, considering the ties to the Zonai that these islands have, I just can't see this. It would require a lot of convenience in the story for Ganondorf to basically make his job of ruling the world even harder by accident. Yeah, I think the Zonai are back of their own volition and are more than likely going to, with the help of Link and Zelda, save the Kingdom of Hyrule from yet another grueling battle after the one 10,000 years ago, 100 years ago, not even 5 years ago probably, and in the present. Could they be present and try and end the curse that Demise set unto the hero and the princess all the way back in Skyward Sword? Of that, we will see, but I'm not so sure they'd go that far with the story. Plus, that's not what this video is about, and people are definitely going to talk about Demise, so I think I'm about done. There are probably countless other ways that the Zonai might have disappeared, and you all might have some opinions on how they've come back and what they were doing in the time between their disappearance and their return. So leave those thoughts in the comments, since, again, I'd like to get better at theory crafting, and your noggins combining with mine is a perfect way of getting through that. Please subscribe for more weekly content in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom's release, and you'll join the 22% of people who are watching that are subscribed already. Plus, like the video if you enjoyed it, it helps me a ton. Thank you to all of my amazing Patreon supporters and members, with an extra special thank you to Sumji and Jared Whedon as usual. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon. Please stay safe.